I'm continuing my series of Master Retro reviews with Season 2, Episode 16, Henry in Love. So the premise of this episode is that Henry's off in Tokyo and he falls in love. That's pretty much what's going on. Of course, the person he falls in love with is turning 21 that August and is less than half his age. Yeah, not a good look, Henry. Not a good look. Plus, he's married. So again, not a good look. Thankfully, the episode ends with Henry realizing the woman he truly loves is his wife. So that's good, but why do they have to, before this, write him in a relationship with nurses? Like, if he's truly in love with his wife and all that, why is he having an affair? I'm just saying. And of course, the girl he falls in love with, well, she sees Hawkeye and thinks Hawkeye's attracted to her, so she comes on to him. And again, Hawkeye's younger than Henry was still, getting his impression he's in his late 20s, early 30s. But still, this is an episode I felt uncomfortable watching, mainly because, it's really pointing out the age gap, which I'm glad they do point it out, but they don't do enough to express that the age gap is the issue in the relationship. The issue that they present is that Henry is married and all that. Which I feel like, if they wanted to say something, maybe said that Henry's married and this person is old enough to basically be his daughter. So, yeah. Wish they had pushed that angle more. There was at least one joke about that, but that was more of a joke at Frank's expense because, they did do some contrasting with how Frank is having an affair with Margaret, even though Frank is married back home. Not too much, mostly with Margaret mentioning that this new young lady will be old enough to be Frank's daughter. Partially because Frank was being weird in that moment, in the sense that he was trying not to be weird, so he ended up being weird in his Frank way, regardless. But I do want to say, this episode this isn't my favorite episode. It's like, you would think it would be a good setup for some hijinks, but it's not. It's just awkward, in my opinion. They don't really address the root problem of the concept, which they could have done so easily. Like, I'm just going to bring up a later episode. I forget what episode it is, but it's after Colonel Potter has arrived, where he meets someone around his same age and falls in love, basically. And I feel like they handled that story a lot better. I think partially, one, because there was no age gap, and two, because Colonel Potter is happily married, that he values and loves his wife. You don't get that same sense from Henry, so Henry's realizing that this relationship is not going to work out because he loves his wife falls hollow because it had not been established that he values his wife, that he loves and values his wife. So there is that. But I do want to say there are some really good moments, like how it was Rada who called Henry's wife on Henry's behalf, which I think was a good thing. Radar identified the need, and apparently Henry had not been responding to his wife Lorraine's letters, so that was good. This was just kind of more of a fun, sad gag, but since Henry was in Tokyo, Frank was briefly, acting CEO. He calls himself Supreme Commander. One, he's not, he's just the acting CEO, as being the executive officer. He becomes the acting CEO when the CEO is not there. And two, he had the rocks painted red, white, and blue. I had never noticed that before in this episode, but they never pointed it out, but the rocks in the background are red, white, and blue. And we know in previous episodes he's tried to get the rocks painted white. So apparently this time he succeeded, and Margaret didn't point out the air raid problems of painting rocks red, white, and blue. But that's all I got to say on this episode. I know there's not much to say, but for an episode I thought was awkward. I feel like they didn't do the premise properly, or actually address the problems of the concept itself, which I guess you could say is definitely a product of its time. We probably would be addressing the storyline differently nowadays if we kept the premises the same, just changed how we would address certain things because of new sensibilities, updating, changing sensibilities, all that. But you know what? I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode Henry in Love in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest videos. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you always.